Wow, welcome. I am so happy to see you all here this morning. I was going to have a lovely little rendition from YouTube of Adam Ant singing Stand and Deliver. So if you can get that thing going in your head of Stand and Deliver, then you know where we're coming from. I'm not going to sing anymore. I don't do the singing thing. Again, welcome to my presentation today. I'm Dawn Gregory from The Confident Speaker. I've been doing this as a business for a few years, but actually I've been doing this as a way of life for an awful lot longer. And when I was very young, confidence was not something that I personally felt around speaking. And it was so funny because I did a lot of it. And as long as I was sitting down, having a nice little chat, I could talk for hours. And when I had to stand on stage, which I did every year, it would be horrible. I found ways of getting around it, and then I got a little bit more confident myself. But what I want to share with you guys today are some hints and tips that will actually make life easier for you if you are facing that notion of speaking. How many people here have their own business? Whoa, okay. Keep your hand up if you hands up again, business people, yeah. Keep your hand up if you regularly speak as a mode of promoting or marketing your business. Yay, great, but there's quite a few of you who don't. And a lot of the time that's because we think, what will we say, who will we talk to, and all that kind of stuff. If you regularly networking, then you'll find you'll have an opportunity with which to try all of this stuff out. So by the end of this session, what I would love for you guys to know is how to structure things properly, how to use breathing to help you manage those nerves, how to use your voice effectively to make sure that when you do speak, people know exactly or hear exactly what you're saying. If you're wondering where the accent's from, I'll put you out of your misery. It's Northern Ireland. I get so many people who sort of say, oh, what part of Scotland are you from? And it's actually a bit sort of west of Scotland, but it's not that far away. And I will explore just a little bit how you might use props and technology to actually take a little bit of the heat off yourself whenever you're speaking. So how does that sound? Does that sound okay? Can we cope? This is wonderful. I can see my lovely animations. You can't. They are lovely animations, trust me. Okay, so first of all, my big thing for people who are speaking is making sure that you do your planning, where possible, well in advance. So you see, if you were a tennis player, if you were an actor, if you were Usain Bolt, who's my favorite, okay, you wouldn't rock up to any of those events without planning. Planning what you're going to do, planning who you're doing it for, planning who you're going to beat, and all the rest of it. In speaking, we're not planning to beat anybody, but when you're planning, you need to think to yourself, what's the message that I want to get out there? You know, roughly speaking, and sometimes very specifically speaking, who are my audience? How can I serve them the best way that I can to make sure they get value out of what I'm doing for them? Sometimes it's easy for you to identify all that information because you're speaking for a specific reason. Sometimes, like today, when you don't know the experience levels of the people in the room, it's a little bit more difficult. But think to yourself, okay, what am I trying to achieve? How am I going to plan to do that? So part of it is thinking about your message. My message today is very key. Do these things in future and you will find speaking easier. I'm not going to say it's going to make you want to jump out and get on the BBC, but you know, it'll make things a bit easier. The other thing that you need to think to yourself is, why am I doing it at all? I personally feel that as business owners, speaking is one of the marketing tools that we can use really effectively. But actually, if you really don't like speaking, if you don't really want to be in front of a crowd, If that terrifies the living daylights out of you and you don't want to do anything about it, then why are you doing it? There's so many other ways that you can get your message across. You don't have to speak. So do ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I putting it through it? And the other thing is, how am I going to do it? Am I going to use a PowerPoint presentation that doesn't work because the technology's let me down? But actually, how? In terms of where as well. So it's always good. This morning, Peter, that's my husband behind the camera, we came up here this morning, first of all, for me to have a little bit of a recce to see how much I needed to use my voice so that everybody at the back could hear me. I hope you can. Good. But also to get an idea about, the size of the room, the size of the ceiling, and all the rest of it. Because the last thing that you want to do is to come into your room and think, oh Lord. I actually did this in Southampton about 1.5 years ago. I went to speak at a networking event, and I'd never been to the restaurant before, and the ceiling was low, and the acoustics were dreadful, and people could not hear me at the back of the room because of that. And I just felt weak. And here's me, kind of a professional speaker, sharing this with you. But I get it wrong too. So if you can, go along, see where it is, see what you're doing. And then the next thing you want to do, once you've identified, this is what I'm going to speak about, this is who I'm speaking to, this is where I'm going to do it, this is how I'm going to do it, then think about how you're structuring your bits and pieces. I like to think of a presentation a bit like a sandwich, okay? Or Scrum, which is something that your content Scrum, I call it. And if you're giving a small presentation, say anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, and for some of you, you may think, small, 15 minutes, oh my God, that's dreadful. Think to yourself, it's going to be like a wrap. There's not a lot of eating in it. There's not so much filling. And think, can I get away with 3 major points that support my particular message? Of course, you're going to have an introduction. You're going to have a conclusion. But those things in the middle, can I do that in 3 main points? If you're actually doing a much larger presentation, then you can take it up and do 6 points or 9 points, or depending on how long you're speaking. But if you try and put too much into your presentation, what you're doing is you're basically using a scattergun approach. And then when you say to people at the end of the presentation, well, what one thing can you remember from what I've said today that you might use? And you've given them 50. It's like, oh my God, she's putting me on the spot. So think about that. And think of it in terms of a sandwich. A wrap is small. Your normal doorstep is a medium-sized presentation, or you can get one of those big baguettes that take a lot of eating. You're going to have more information in there. So think about it, but at all times when you're putting those together, again, be very focused. What is my message? What do I want my audience to take away? So I'm just going to go flicking through this, because it's funny when you don't have it on the screen. You get through it an awful lot faster. But there you go. The other thing that you might want to think about at this stage is when you're putting these points together, what do I want my audience to think, feel, or know? You know what your business is something you're going to talk about thought-provoking, and you want them to go away and think a little bit more about that before they make any decisions. Do you want them to know something? You could be giving them information that is really relevant to their business or to their life, and you want them to remember that. Or do you want them to send them away with a feeling? They feel good about themselves, they feel good about the message that you've shared with them, or whatever. I think it's Maya Angelou, although it could be Oprah, or somebody else, said people very rarely remember what you say to them, but they do remember how you made them feel. And so I think that's one of the big things. So now we're going to get to the interactive part. And luckily, this doesn't take too much space, but I will need people to be standing up in a minute, okay? So everybody gets a bit nervous. Everybody gets a bit of a dry mouth, depending on the heat of the room. Nerves and anticipation are two sides of the same coin. You can either say, I'm really, really nervous. Oh my God, I'm so scared. They're going to eat me alive. It's dreadful. Or you can think, I'm really excited. This is going to be such a good opportunity. Oh, I'm trembling with excitement. Tremble with excitement, tremble with nerves. Brain doesn't know any different. But hold on. If it gets to the point where it feels as if it's going to overwhelm you, one of the things you can do is just simply breathe. And that sounds probably a bit weird sometimes, but your brain is taking all that information. It's thinking, oh my God, there's a saber-toothed tiger in the room. There's a hairy mammoth. It's going to eat us alive. Fight, flight, or freeze. How you tell your brain that actually that's not the case is you adjust your breathing. So could I please ask everybody to be upstood? And now the first thing that you need to do before we do any breathing is, can you wiggle your knees just a little bit? Yeah, and move your hips, because it's really about you loosening ourselves up a little bit. Yeah, a little bit shoulder action. Yeah, no, well, we could do, yeah, no, that's for a longer presentation, you see, to be able to do the dance. Now, the other thing I have to say, when you're standing, we don't want locked knees. Locked knees means that your muscles are all tight, your tummy's tight, your chest is tight, and all the rest of it. And all you're going to do at the moment is you're going to breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. So breathe in and breathe out. Oh, that feels good. Breathe in and breathe out. You breathe in for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 4, you breathe out for a count of 4, and you hold for a count of 4. And we're going to do 2 cycles of that, okay? And you just follow my instructions. Now, if I have any athletes in the room, and you want to do this at home, you probably have good lung capacity. You might have to take it up to 6 or 7. But for today, we'll do 4s, okay? So we're breathing in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. And breathe normally, okay? You can sit down again. Interestingly, with that exercise, what you're doing is you're telling your brain, I'm looking after the breathing. Because let's face it, is it the automatic nervous system or something like that there, looks after that nicely so we don't die. But whenever you take control of your breathing, it just helps, particularly that bit at the bottom when you've breathed out and you're holding for the 4. What's happening is your brain is kind of thinking, I want to breathe in, I want to breathe in. And you're saying, no, you're not. You've got to wait for 4. And all of that circular breathing just calms everything down. I find it very, very useful. One of my clients, who actually is a really good speaker herself, and she speaks, as part of her work, she speaks with other people in a speakers club, sent me a nice little testimonial. And she says, and I'll just read it here, thank you for helping me. Last night I chaired 2 contests for speakers for a group of about 40 folk. I was nervous, stroke excited. You see, she's been trained by me. Yeah. Earlier in the day, so I practiced the breathing techniques you taught me. As a result, when it came to the evening, I felt calm and confident. Usain doesn't actually step up to the blocks without being fully warmed up. So why should any of us think that we're going to do extended speaking without warming up as well? So, and I'm actually going to ask you just to copy me because it's a little bit of fun. You can do it sitting down or standing up, it doesn't matter. The breathing exercises I've just shared with you is part of your warm-up. It gets your lungs moving very nicely, but it also brings you down just a little bit in the calming stakes. However, we want to get our mouths working effectively, those beautiful organs of speech that actually means people can hear us. What I'm going to do is share with you the fruit salad warm-up. It's really very, very hard. I don't know how I can actually do it today, but hey, bear with me. When you're saying these words, I want you to overstretch all of those kind of vocal organs. So the first word, are you ready? Prunes. Okay, can you all say it with me? So 1, 2, 3, prunes. Okay, now I'm not seeing too much lip action going on here. So can we, woo, 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 you know, like a goldfish. So prunes. Oh, nice one. Now, this is even harder. Again, a lot of lip action. Bananas. Come on. Okay, let's really stretch it. Bananas. Bananas. Yes, lovely. Okay, this one is a very well-known fruit. Sausages. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Sausages. Okay, it's really interesting. I've actually put you through the discomfort of saying this out loud. But even if you mime, it's amazing how you're warming up your whole face. If you put your fingers at your jaws or your throat, it'll feel quite warm. Aubergine, you don't have to do that. Aubergine, all these things are loosening up your jaw, warming up your tongue, getting your teeth working in the right direction if you put them in that day, and that's it. Okay. Very, very quickly about props and technology. Props and technology, if you are feeling a little bit worried about speaking, are such a good thing because it takes people's focus away from you. Now, I don't mind you all looking at me. You know, this is kind of cool. I can cope with this. All day would be too hard, but for 20 minutes is okay. But sometimes it's lovely to have something on that screen because you can go to one side and everybody looks at it. You can pull out a flip chart. You can use tablets. You can use lots of different things. So if you feel that you don't want to be that person who's being looked at all the time, then find the technology. Now, I'm not the greatest PowerPoint presentation creator in the world. I will never pretend that I am, but I can do it passively, except for getting machinery to work, of course. And that can be really, really good. If you are going to use PowerPoint, if you are going to use technology, please do not let the day you do your presentation be the day that you actually first use it. What have we talked about today? We've talked about structure, we've talked about message, we've talked about our content scrum, we've talked about breathing, we've talked about warming up our mouth, and that's really all I have time for today, which is a bit unfortunate. I've left some little documents on the tables for you to take away. Please take them. I've got more if you want to grab one for a friend. So thank you so much for being a terrific audience. That's us for today. Thank you.